Music to the soul, I tell you. Welcome back to another weekly outlook, you guys. We are experiencing the most beautiful price action that we have experienced in a very long time. Today, however, I'm gonna show you guys why I had a very bullish bias on the US dollar this year and why I have a bearish bias on the Euro USD. So I want to take you guys back here. Look at this particular candle here. Very intriguing candle. This is the 2020 four candle. We're on a 12-month chart, which is a yearly chart. So this is a 12-month candle. What we had in here was a yearly fair value gap. And you could see in previous years, 2022 and 2023 to be exact, we traded up inside this area, and we closed below it. For fair value gaps, you want to see the bodies remain within the fair value gap if we are looking to head in the opposite direction. But this particular candle here in 2024, we closed above the fair value gap, disrespecting the fair value gap, which invalidated this fair value gap for us to look for any further, to say that we're gonna head down in a short position to these lows or something like that. And what that started was a move then in 2025 for us to drop down inside this yearly fair value gap, which is in alignment with my 14 SMA, my moving average, which seems to be very accurate, on the higher time frames, though it's a simple moving average. Now, what what initiated this move down lower last year? If you look at the euro dollar, it didn't look like it had any like uh setups to go long last year, like just the initial start of it. But if we were looking at the DXY, we could clearly see. Let's go to the daily chart. Let's go to the daily chart. Up in here, after we tested the 6 month fair value gap to head down lower, which I had annotated, after we tested the 6 month fair value gap, we then had a break of structure right here. This is around February. February is a good time to trade as well. We then traded up inside this fair value gap, and then that's where we had the breakdown lower, for the entire year of 2025. And then I was expecting us to get down to the 6 month fair value gap. We didn't, but however, we then consolidated after reaching the lowest point of the the yearly fair value gap, and then we just consolidated. We stayed in a range. Then this was the yearly low of 2025. This here is a sweep of that liquidity. It may look better from a weekly perspective. So from a weekly perspective for the DXY, we had a sweep of liquidity of last year's low of that fair value of no, not of the fair value gap of last year's low, and then we went up and we broke structure here. We also broke structure here. We closed above, and then we had the move back down into discount pricing to then for us to then head back up. This is my reasoning for getting into the trade. This is like ICT 2022 mentorship. We sweep liquidity, we break structure, leave a fair value gap, return into the fair value gap in discount pricing, and then head up higher. And I am aiming at least, this might take a while, up into here. We could definitely take out those highs. If we go back to a daily chart, it's even more evident. Now everyone was looking like, oh, it's just ranging, it's doing this, it's doing that. Um, if you know what was happening, this I was anticipating this just because we are already into the low end of the yearly fair value gap. Then we had this break of structure, like I said, return into the discount pricing. We swept some liquidity the same time, right? And then we had higher. We also had this weekly fair value gap that it tapped into and then just headed up higher. Then we also we also have this daily fair value gap right here. That was beautifully traded into. Notice how and then we have this, we could say daily. Now, what's quite not right here with me is this particular candle closing below the fair value gap. Like the body closed below. So this could have probably invalidated that trade for me. But I was very confident that it was gonna go up. How much it just like respected this fair value gap. But this could have possibly invalidated that trade for me. If we go to a 4 hour fair value gap, let's check, see if the 4 hour, yeah, we're still respecting the 4 hour structure. So, you know, this was still a clean move to the upside. Now let's go to the euro dollar. We're going to take it to the weekly, however. What we have for the euro dollar, this was the 2025 high. We traded up inside this monthly fair value gap. This box, this region right here, this area of interest was a weekly fair value gap. We disrespected it here, made this now invalid in the balance range. And then we traded up into this monthly fair value gap just to show you guys monthly. And then we almost touched this yearly fair value gap. See there? 1 year. And then what happened is we swept liquidity and then we came down and broke structure. That's why we have this here. We broke structure on a weekly. If you put your fib from high to low, you would have premium pricings where you want to start to take sales from. And then you could look for the liquidity to get swept. We have this weekly liquidity high, the high of this week and the high of this week. I was more so interested in this high right here because this is where I want to mark my fib from. So I wasn't expecting it to get to that high. And so now I also told you guys that we would trade low, we would consolidate in this area for a while before then seeing lower prices. And we did just that. Now let's go to the daily time frame that's much more apparent. We swept this liquidity high up here, this weekly high. We consolidated. We came into a 4 hour fair value gap, sold lower. We consolidated for a few more weeks. I was not anticipating this, but hey, these are the markets. While we were in between this daily fair value gap here, this is what we were bouncing off of. And then we also created a weekly fair value gap that was traded smartly too. Now, I also referred to you guys and told you that, hey, when we have a move like this, typically GBP USD is going to have a move like this also. And they're both going to leave a fair value gap. What I am saying is if your USD reaches the top of this fair value gap first, then GBP USD would only reach the midpoint. However, GBP USD reached the top of its fair value gap first. Therefore, Euro USD would only reach the midpoint, although we still had this weekly fair value gap. This was a good position to sell off. However, it what made this a little difficult was if you put your fib from the high point before it broke structure down to the lowest point, I used the bodies. We are nowhere close in premium pricing, nor did we. I feel as though sometimes we don't have to get in premium pricing all the time. We could just trade down lower based on my back testing and also my forward testing that I've seen. Sometimes this could just be like a gap that's left open, or you could just like we'll call it like a measuring gap. So then I want to take you guys to the 4 hour and show you why we had this breakdown lower. So here it is. Why was this solidified as the high? Because okay, we traded down, right? And on the 4 hour time frame, we hit area of interest and then we broke structure on this candle right here. We can't say we broke structure here because what the market did from here to this point was just wick. See, we just had a wick. So this was the structure point that was broken, and this was the fair value gap that just left. When we wick, we don't really break structure. We just take in liquidity. But if we close and break below the structure, then that is a change of character. Then we trade up into our area of interest, which is the 4 hour fair value gap that's right here. See, 4 hour. And then we could put our entries here, our stops above here, and then we could just ride this down all the way to the 6 month or the monthly fair value gap. And then what we had here, I was actually telling you guys on this other trade setup, I was telling you guys after we broke down here, I'm looking at this inversion fair value gap to be traded to whilst we're in like this setting here, right? And I said if GBP USD gets to the highest point of its fair value gap, then Euro USD will reach the midpoint. Or if Euro USD got to the high point of its fair value gap, then GBP USD would get to the midpoint. However, I was anticipating us to get up to the high point of Euro USD. What I did not anticipate was us to close above the daily fair value gap, all of this, and close above. See, that invalidates the trade for me. However, the structure is still intact. Like if you put your fib from the high to the low, right? After breaking structure, you only use your fib after you've broken structure, right? So if you put your fib from the high to the low, now we're up in premium pricing 50%, 62%, 70%, 79%. All of this is premium pricing. So we're still good for sales. Now, I also told you guys, I really want you guys to pay attention to this. When the candles are moving extremely slow, because it might look like it's impulsive, but it's still moving slow relative to how quick and aggressive like this candle was, right? It's still moving slower to the upside. So now I had an entry here. I had an entry for sales, say like somewhere around here, and my stop loss was right above this high right here. and I was targeting like the 6 month fair value gap, you know. But however, we did not get that. I didn't hold it because the this candle closed above, and I just didn't want to stay in for like any extra risk. So now what we have is price can actually trade up into this, either the midpoint or the top, or it could just get to the bottom of this fair value gap and then head down lower. I would actually have to see with GBP USD, uh, it, the speed of whichever one of these get to the fair value gap first, and then we can look for ourselves. Now, with this daily inversion, like I was telling you guys, when this candle traded above, before this candle traded above with the inversion fair value gap, if I'm looking for sells, I don't want to see this traded above this. You notice how it closed above this fair value gap here? Yeah, that is not an ideal setup. I back tested this also, so that's why I can tell you guys that you just want to see the body is stay within the inversion fair value gap. But I did not re-enter this trade. I missed this trade completely. Um, I could have got in if I was looking at like lower time frames, like I say the 15 minute. Let's look at that, see if we have anything. This is me actually analyzing with you guys. Right? Hold on, let me cut on my sessions indicator. London sessions, New York session. We didn't close above this high. However, on a 15-minute time frame, we broke below this low here. I would have preferred to see it break below this low and then come back up. But for me, this is still like sloppy price action. Yeah, yeah, it's still like sloppy to me, like on the lower time frame. The only thing I can say, if we go into this day here, so when we started to break down lower, we actually broke structure here and we broke structure here. Now this would be more of a great break of structure, right? That's a break of structure. Then we retraced into the New York session. But we still kind of disrespected this fair value gap. I don't like the fair value gaps to close. I don't like the price action to close above the fair value gap. You see that? That's a close above, but we still broke structure. Probably if you see it on a 5 minute or a 10 minute, it look more cleaner. But then, even with that, we still broke the lower a little bit. It almost looked like we swiped liquidity, but that could have very well been a bull trap. Then we had this. All right, that's a good fair value gap on a 15-minute time frame. And then, as you could see, it just broke down lower. But the price action on this day, it looked really good for sales. Didn't look like it, and nothing was really showing buys now that I really look at the 15-minute. And before this break of structure, if I mark this up, sorry, I'm just like analyzing with you guys at the same time. If I mark from the high to the low, yeah, we got up into premium pricing, then we broke down lower a little bit, and then yeah, we were good for sales. But it wasn't a sell for me. However, let's look at GBP USD. Let's have some fun with this. Oh, we're ending.